Welcome to Beyond the Den, Episode 3. I'm your host, Digital Optimist, ready to take a deep dive into the wild world of Wolf Game. We've got a triple threat today with the brilliant JSteezy, insightful Farmer Piddy, and the ever-inspiring Godwin. We'll explore strategies, spark up some conversations, and share a ton of laughs. And stay tuned till the end, as we've got a killer roleplay session that you won't want to miss. Let's get to it. Welcome, everybody, and let's start at the beginning. Let's start with Godwin, and what drew you into Wolf Game?
Yeah, so right from the beginning, I've been in Web3 crypto for a number of years. I remember when Wolf Game dropped, like a lot of other people, I was kind of disillusioned with some of the NFT projects, the quick in and out, up and down, pump and dump, PFP, in it for the art. I wanted more than that. And I remember just some of the first GIFs and just the storytelling component, the narrative, there was just something different that just stood out right away. Mm-hmm. And so I joined the project pretty soon after it started. The GIF I remember the most, sort of the most transformational one, was the Squid, Catan, and Pokemon GIF. And I've told Piddy, like, that wasn't a descriptive thing of what Shep was going to build. To me, it was an inspirational, aspirational, that he had his sights set on building a category-defining game for Web3. Mm-hmm. And that's when, to me, that was like a flag plant. And that moment, I was like, I mean, I was already in, but I was like, I'm all in. That was a really big moment for me that I've gone back to a number of times.
Sure, that's a great answer. Was it more about just the quality of the GIF, or was it the lore behind it? Like, what attracted you to it?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just the general storytelling, the creativity, how the GIF and the storytelling engages the community, how much the community takes. You know, we joke about the speculation, but I really think it's like it fires the imagination and everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody feels a part of it. It's like you find yourself in the story. Mm-hmm. I just think it's fantastic, and it's just better than what any other project is doing. So it's not one GIF, right? It's more the accumulation and the building, and just how beautiful and deep and real and rich, the story that Shep is telling. I've joked in the past that Shep isn't just a developer; he's a storyteller, and that's really, really powerful. You think of somebody like Gary Vee in the space, right? They're in the marketing, communication, advertising space. They're really storytellers. They just do it in a specific medium or platform. And yeah, Shep is just killing it from a storytelling standpoint.
Freaking love that dude. I would agree 100%. And being, you're probably over the age of at least 30, right? I mean,
yes,
you're literally attracted to these GIFs, these little pixelated sheep and farmers, and anybody in the outside world sees it and they go, well, this is so freaking stupid, right? But the fact that there's just so much substance to behind that GIF, right? And there's just, Shep truly is a mastermind. It is amazing.
For many of us, that Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis was our sort of first console experience. Mm-hmm. I think the art and the bits or pixelation detail, I think that was a strategic choice that would appeal to those of us who grew up a lot in the 90s. I think that's a mastermind level strategic play. And I think it was brilliant.
Yeah, it really separates it, right, from the competition, from the new age 3D work that we see all over the place. It definitely has a specific look to it. How about you, JSteezy? What kind of drew you into Wolf Game?
God, where do I start? I guess for me, I was a gamer before Wolf Game. Also finance has kind of always been near and dear to me. I learned about Wolf Game, I think, on the second day. Actually, my brother, who had recently got into crypto and NFTs, and I helped him, kind of get started. He found this project and shared it with me and said, "Hey, this looks kind of cool. These guys are, I think, banks." He showed me a Banks tweet and said, "Look, this sheep's making money a day." And I was like, initially wrote it off in my head, but read a little bit of it and kind of got interested enough to buy one sheep. And I think they were like half an ETH or something. They were just started to really rise. And I was farming with it and, was like, this is like really cool. I had shared the project with a couple of my friends that were more dev and tech inclined, and they looked through the code and was like, this is like really cool. Like, it's original, it's unique. Like, this guy seems like capable, special, and that made me like get very interested. The problem was that by that time, I think the floors were like several ETH for a sheep, and we were in that like lockout time. Shep started talking about pouches, and then that's when I just got super into it. They it was kind of an innovation, and it seemed like a super elegant solution to the problem. Kind of the first push hard into Wolf Game came right before those pouches and risky game concluded, and I bought a bunch of sheep. I think it was like about 0.4 each, and accumulated a lot of pouches there. When pouches came out, they were super exciting because they traded at like a 95% discount out of the gate. People didn't really understand them. Took a while for them to get below 60%. There was guys that like, hey, I bought a pouch 2 weeks ago. It's paid me more wool than it cost. And it was like, oh my God, this is like a crazy time. It's like someone called it a self-amortizing bond. It's really cool. And yeah, basically been hooked since, as you guys know. And, there's just this thing about Wolf Game, I guess. There's always like, the meta is always changing. There's always something else that someone's not thinking of. And if you can think of it first, there can be huge rewards. And I really like that part about Wolf Game. It's totally, not about the flipping. It's actually about using the NFTs and playing. And that's, that was unique at the time. Really, really special.
Awesome, dude. And when you think, some people say that they're invested in Wolf Game, and then you look into JSteezy's wallet and you go, holy goodness, right? I mean, it's like the conviction that you have. It seemed to me at one point like you literally had unlimited funds. Like, you were just sweeping things left and right. It was like literally like you were a shopkeeper. It was insane. I said, who the hell is this guy? What the heck is going on? Did you come from, did you have a crypto background? I mean, I don't want to talk, specifics about your funds, but like, were you into Bitcoin early?
Yes. So I was an early Bitcoin guy, an early Ethereum guy. I guess late 2014 is when I first got started. I started by mining. I was into building computers and kind of had a gaming background, and Ethereum was just launching, and I heard you could mine it with graphics cards and was familiar with that, and built my first rig, and that turned into 3 rigs, and that turned into 10 rigs, and then that turned into 3 locations and 400 rigs by 2019. And I'm a guy that has sold thousands of Ethereum in single digits, which is terrible looking back, but it was really hard to imagine what Ethereum has become back then. From a really early stage, it wasn't sort of, you couldn't do anything. There wasn't apps like there is now. It was even pitched somewhat of like, this is a faster, cheaper Bitcoin. And it's totally changed since. And it's just this amazing network that it's become, that it's more than I could have ever imagined. But that's kind of how I got started. And I stopped mining in, I think, around 2019. I was always into NFTs even before they were sort of a thing. Just being an enthusiast of crypto, kind of was eager to check out these new launches and games. And Gods Unchained was one of my first ones, definitely the first big win I had. I think that was like 2018 or 2019 when it launched, and I put a bunch of funds into that and have played 3,000 competitive Gods Unchained games on the blockchain. And so that was sort of my start. I do try to keep, like, Wolf Game has, although you probably saw me sweeping a ton of stuff, a lot of that is actually generated from Wolf Game. Like, it was some of those early decisions I made with the pouches that allowed me to sort of compound my success in the game. And so there was one point that I did take a fair bit out of the game, and I have put, most of that back in. But as far as like, total cost, like it doesn't feel like I've put a lot of, outside crypto in. I've just never taken any out, and I've done everything to grow my bag by trading, by playing the game mostly. And every once in a while, once I get a lot of wool and wool becomes expensive, he'll be like, hey, let's trade it for a few wolves. Let's trade it for a few lands. I got my P2 structure for 600K wool before the day before full game launch. And that was the same structure that I had traded, a few months later for a punk.
Crazy.
Still, no capital came out of Wolf Game.
Sure.
So I guess it's just, I have a long-term vision with it. I want to see it through. And I kind of consider my bag like my playing bag. Like this is my sunk cost. I want to see what I can turn it to if I just keep compounding and believe in Shep. And, these are my tools. And I kind of approach it with that mindset.
Yeah, dude, it's fascinating, man. And I often, originally hearing that you started with Bitcoin, right? I know Farmer Piddy, that's kind of how you delve down the rabbit hole into crypto, which like most people, but you also compare wool, right, to Bitcoin, and it has some of the characteristics of Bitcoin.
I will say, like, one of the big things that drew me to the game is, my relationship with Godwin. We know each other pretty well in real life, and have been doing crypto together basically since like early 2017. I knew that if he took something, obviously other than like Bitcoin, seriously, because we were both kind of like serious on Bitcoin, but when he saw something that he was like, this is unique, this is something I want to not just get I don't want to throw $100 at this thing. Like, I want to take a position here. I kind of just had to like wait for him to find that thing and then just follow suit. So it's kind of easy, just because like I really respect, his opinion. And I knew that when he takes that shot, like I wanted to kind of be in that boat with him. So he really drew me into Wolf Game. From my own gameplay, I actually have a similar take to Steezy in that some of the primary ways that I've been able to like grow my bag has been through trading. So like right before full game launched, I had my Piddy PFP and I had like a sheep, and I had I think I finally picked up like a Joe Farmer and 2 just ordinary land. And basically when all those things were at their highest point, I was able to trade it all for a structure. And then all of those assets fell like really hard against structures. Structures were kind of like holding their value. And then I moved back from my structure into some more assets again. And I was able to get like 4 sheep, 2 like decent farmers, like a diesels. Even he was able to get some like wool and stuff like that. So I don't know, just moving throughout the game, it's really helped me kind of increase my bags probably 2 or 3x just from like trading in and out of assets. And I know that's not for everybody, but that's been something that's been really helpful.
Excellent.
I was gonna mention really quickly in Piddy and I's past. I mean, I had to realize pretty early on, after trying to follow him into some trades, we would trade the same asset in the same time frame, and he would outperform me. I'm not a trader. I like seeing things directionally, and once I have conviction that this is the thing, I try to get as many buys in a range as I can. I'm not worried about the bottom. I'm not worried about the in and the out and the entry price. It's a directional play, and I think it's important. I mean, I respect the heck out of Piddy and Steezy. They have abilities I don't have, and yet we're all able to play Wolf Game. So if you're a trader, knock it out. If you're not, I always talk about where's my advantage, where's my edge. My edge is being on something early and being willing to hold longer than a lot of other people are. So I just want to accent the fact that there's a number of ways to come at Wolf Game. And if you don't find one that's your fit, there's another angle that you can play. And Piddy and I are sort of like 2 sides of the same coin in that way. But yeah, I think it's really worth discussion.
It's so cool, man. And it's great when you guys kind of live close to each other too, right? Yeah, so that's an awesome thing because well, a lot of times we have our in real life friends where they look at you like you have 18 heads, right? When you talk about crypto. So it's really cool that you guys have that bond. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk a bit about a story when you had to actually completely change your approach to the game. Like Shep rolled something out, a change, and was like, oh, wow, like you were really hot and heavy on some asset, and then now you completely changed your strategy.
I remember in Cave Game, I was watching Terms streams, like a number of people, and he was using, I forget who made the tool that he used, other people used, that would like map your movements. I remember getting like 3 weeks out into the game, and I was mapping my direction and my next moves, but I got to a place in Cave Game, and I thought, I'm not using the tool, and I don't have a plan from here on out. And that was kind of the first thought of like, if tools exist, I'm gonna have to use the tools. And that really changed how I thought about the game. I think recently, power tools has been just like, I mean, just you opt out of stuff like that at your own risk, because now I've got wolves that are using the tools. I've got players that are now going to outpace me if they're using the tools on these instant farmer protects. You got things like feral flips, which I know Steezy is heavily involved in. Wolfgame.page, I use to monitor my communities. I know you and Piddy talked about that last time. So I think it's just been the tools have changed the way I've played the game. They've also deepened my conviction on the game. But yeah, that's been a big one for me.
Yeah, dude, great answer. And what other community out there is creating tools like this? I mean, they're literally doing it selflessly, right? They're not getting paid. Or, they work their way up to getting paid because, that brings out the entrepreneur in a lot of people. But the fact that they started off selflessly giving, right, these tools, like I remember Cave Game, like you said, the heat map, it was like I found God, at that moment. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine playing this game without this heat map. Most people, they just didn't even know it really existed. So the fact that there's so many people that are jumping onto these tools is really a game changer. How about you, Farmer Piddy?
Yeah, I was going to say this wasn't something that came out and forced me to like change my strategy. Really, it just opened up options, and that's the farmers market. So like before the farmers market came out, I was already sort of headstrong on I want to breed. I want to breed all I can, and I want to get as far into my breeds as possible. But before the farmers market, I think I only had like 2 farmers, and trying to time the breeding up with your 2 farmers, like that process it can be difficult to figure out, right? Because your farmers run a 30-day cooldown, while the barn you're breeding in might be a 40-day breed, or it might be a 30-day breed, or it might be 27 days. So it was just tricky. And it was really risky at that point to try to breed well into the nurturing process without protection. And without a farmer's market, I just couldn't do that because I didn't have the funds to go buy a bunch of farmers. So to me, that was a huge moment in the game where it was like, okay, I don't have to just settle for these 375s. Like I'm going to be able to take this sheep as far as I want to, depending on how much wool I want to invest in this breeding process. So farmer's market, in my opinion, is probably the biggest element of the game that really opened up options for breeders, just because it kind of eliminates the necessity of having to use your farmers on your breeds.
Yeah. Perfect. So if you do own farmers, what are some ways that you may use them? Would you use them to boost or protect for gathering? Because I do know that you had a really big play with wood. And you had a long protection on one of your sheeps, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've used my farmers on my breeding protection. I've used them to protect. I've used them actually to instant boost my breeding speed. I've used them in a number of ways, but the main point I'm trying to make there is I don't want to have to schedule my breeding around my farmers. I want to breed 24/7. I want to breed to the max. And I want to be able to have a farmer when I need it. And, with that strategy, it was like, using my farmers, I was severely limited. I was really handcuffed in the game. So even, with my farmers, depending on if they become available and I'm at a point in my breed where it makes sense to use a farmer, my default is to use it on my breeding protection. But if that doesn't make sense because of where I am in the breeding cycle or whatever reason, I'll either use the farmer or I've even rented them out a little bit.
Dude, you can literally start up a side business.
Oh yeah.
for just breeding. You could be the breeding monster. That's it. The breeding monster.
It has occurred to me.
Yeah, there's just so many ways to play it.
Yeah.
And you're a numbers guy. You like to analyze things. So, and I'm an idea guy. So I will start just verbally vomiting all over you to help, give you some ideas for that too, if you get
I'll
stuck.
accept any ideas. Any ideas you have are great ideas. Nothing's bad.
One day Piddy came to me. We met up for beers, and one day Piddy came to me and he was like wide-eyed and he was like, I've devised a plan where I can breed and recharge without like ever stopping. This like perfect flywheel of breeding. I've created a monster, and that was a pretty fun day.
Dude, that's awesome, man. God, I'm jealous of the fact that you guys get to meet up in real life, right?
Well, that's the best. Yeah, beers and wolf game strategy, like it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, obviously some things in life are, but
That's true.
Hopefully it enables our decision making and doesn't take it the other direction. But
some of the best creative ideas come out of a pint of beer. That is for sure.
Oh yeah, that is very true. Except when you're in cave game and you're just throwing wool around, right? You're just buying items left and right. Because you've had 4 beers. So JSteezy, you were first really into wool, which I know being the starter of the Woolionaires. What kind of started you on that journey towards wool? Where did your conviction start with wool in particular?
I guess we've always known it's the 100% governance token. And I really wanted to have a say in wolf game things. And I knew that probably wouldn't come for a while. So, let's accumulate as long as possible before that comes live. And I've basically done that. And we started the Citadel, which is a group of Woolionaires that, hang out and discuss governance and really anything. And we've started a Citadel kind of pooled group where people have pooled some funds to even accumulate wool as kind of a group. So there's a lot of cool initiatives going on there and great discussion. But the main role is, when the governance votes come out, it's to discuss things and sway votes one way or another. And we get some very rich conversations there that get reshared into general. Now we do also have the committee channel with, we've got more than a few hundred people in there and 100 people in the Citadel by itself. So it's a place that you can really get heard by people that have, a ton of wool and can sway votes. And also we just want to hear, the best idea. All of those guys, we just want the best for wolf game and wool. With wolf game as well, with wool being the 100% governance token and being hard capped and the distribution mechanism of it, it's a scarce resource. And it's something that, is we're winning less of it over time. Right away, it kind of struck me as like, this is almost like early Bitcoin, right? There's going to be like halvening cycles almost as these new games come and the prizes get smaller and smaller as the total amount of wool left to distribute gets smaller and smaller. The goal is basically that the network gets bigger and bigger, even though it's costing, I guess you could say costing the network less and less, like with those halvenings. But, the amount of, you call it fun or excitement it's generating is more and more with less and less prize, which I think that wool and wolf game is absolutely doing. And that will be a big determiner of its success, because we're not going to be able to get, a huge amount of wool constantly, right? It's going to have to be smaller and smaller because of the nature, the tokenomics that we, believe in so much that Shep has created. It kind of just creates a situation where wool really has to go up for the game to succeed, at least in my view. Yeah, so I guess that was my initial attraction. Definitely agree with what Godwin and Piddy said about, the changes. Like any time really that Shep puts out a tweet really, or a new tool comes out, you almost have to reassess your whole game plan, or at least what it would affect, because there's often ripple effects with kind of every addition, even if that's as simple as, new charts on wolfgame.guru, or, Feral Flips launching and now being able to sell chops like instantly. It affects the way you think, and it affects your decisions, because you could say, hey, do I want to breed this wolf, or do I want to sell this for wool? It really opens up what you can do. And so strategy changes. It's like a living, breathing game, living, breathing economy inside the game. And so, yeah, adapting is just part of it. And it's a constant process. Even in the last 30, 60 days, I could name a lot of ways where I've changed my playing, whether I was wrong at first or just things changed and made me feel a different way. Definitely agree with, Piddy on those farmers. I've been doing the same thing. Although I have farmers, I've been renting my own farmers and also renting farmers. So it's sort of, you got that always on capability.
Yeah. Awesome answer, dude. That was the best your audio's been. Were you literally like tonguing the phone or tonguing your computer at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can picture you. I literally can picture you. If for those who have met JSteezy, I can picture you pacing back and forth in the room and just.
I always am.
Yeah, that's what I can imagine right now. So yeah, I loved your point with really just sticking with wool, right? Because if the game is going to be successful and you have a wool bag, essentially the wool is going to go up, right? So if you can be non-emotional, that is the best investment in the game. I also like the approach too of buying assets, because in a sense you are indirectly investing in wool at that point, right? Because if you're
100%.
buying, if you're buying a wolf, I love the wolves. So, in turn, they're more powerful, which then will aid in gaining more wool. So, it's so cool. There's, we talked about that rondel of like everything just comes full circle in this economy. It really is fascinating. So great answer. So what in your prediction, what's going to come next then? I mean, you have Feral Flips. That's a big tool. JSteezy, it seems like your ear is always to the ground. Have you heard whispers of anything that's going to be coming out with the new Peak games that are going to be pretty much in full launch any day now?
No, I haven't. I wish I have, but as far as I know, it's just going to be the 3 games. I can say that I'm, so excited to play all of them. I think they're a smash hit. It's funny because I get like right after the games, I feel this like flood of frustration, whether I won or lost, because I just want to play again. Like I want to queue up again. And I feel like it'll take that to even get good at the games. It's not even so much the stakes or anything. And I'm totally fine with the beta. And I think Shep's doing a great job. And I'm patient. I'm very happy to wait, and it's smart to make sure it's kind of perfect before full live. But, my big takeaway is just like, wow, this has way more potential than I thought. And that's hard to even say because, I've always thought that Wolfgame is just such a high potential platform project in the space and kind of ticks all the boxes. As far as new tools, though, I definitely think you'll see tools from a range of developers, maybe assistance tools in the game. For Wolfwits, maybe there's a Wolfwits helper that is like, hey, this player has used those cards. Like that's pretty simple. You should probably be, memorizing the cards that the other person uses. But I could see little tools develop like that. It'll be up to Shep, which ones kind of cross the line, which doesn't. Also, adding resources at certain times is always going to shake up those tools. Just like that cave game tool, it was only got developed super good in time, sort of for the tail end of cave game, or at least that's when I got into it, and it was a amazing tool. But shortly after that, cave game ended, and I think that that's some of the magic with Shep. You don't really know what's coming until the last second, and then it comes out. And some people are worried about bots and things like that. Like, I'm not at all, because I think that the games will adapt and change sort of before the average developer can kind of come up with something that's like super crazy good. And definitely before problematic ones. Like, and I mentioned I have a gaming background. With any competitive game, League of Legends, Overwatch, like, or just online chess, like, there's going to be extremely sophisticated bots and things like that are developed. And it's really cool with Wolfgame, because it feels like, at least from the games that I've played and have experience in, like, one of the least targetable possible. Like, it just, because it's always changing, because it's always fresh, and we don't know much information, we're kind of kept in the dark. And now working with some of the tool devs, I see the challenges, and it's okay. We don't even know yet. How could we develop something?
Shep is literally, he plays hard to get, Shep, right? It's like he's the beautiful blonde at the bar, right? It's just like, just when she says hi, she smiles at you, you go, hi, and then she turns her back. And then she smiles and then turns her back. And I think his cadence is brilliant. I think it frustrates a lot of people. But if you've been in the ecosystem since day one or relatively early, I think you kind of get that. And you just got to be patient, So how about you, B. Godwin? Looking at Peak Games, beta, what are you excited about? What can you foresee coming out of it? I think you had at one point mentioned the importance of peak credits and how you view those, and what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, high level, NFTs, Web3, always exciting when we can remove layers, remove barriers to entry, give people faster access, more direct access. They don't have to figure out 6 things in order to play. Yeah. And I'm hopeful. I think we're getting there. That it's not a gripe, it's just a desire, right? That, like, I'm excited about being able to get like fresh USD or fresh fiat into the game and peak credits, and you don't have to navigate. I think we've seen in Discord, a lot of people are like, I want in, but now I have to navigate like among these 6 assets or whatever, like, what mix and what do I buy and what's the starter packet. And I do love the idea that we can get people in and they can have an experience, they can have payoff without having to navigate as much complexity. And again, that is not a criticism. It's just, as the space matures from a user experience and onboarding perspective, I'm really excited about just lowering the barrier of entry, removing obstacles, layers, whatever you want to say. The second thing, and this I'm gonna step into Steezy's territory here a little bit, and so I'll sort of set it up, and you can segue to him if you want. Kind of the big word to be arbitrage opportunities, where just last night, Piddy, JSteezy, and I were actually having a conversation. And so if arbitrage is a new term, it's just finding inefficiencies in markets where it's like, I can buy 5 of this thing over here in this market cheaper than it cost me in this market. So I'm going to buy it here and sell it there, like that kind of thing. Well, we were talking about recharge prices through jugs, and then we realized it was like, I can go buy peak credits over here in energy basically at Feral Flips at like 1/5 of the cost as what the jugs market is selling energy for right now, right? And it's like, I think early on, for more advanced players, they're early in markets, there's always arbitrage opportunities that level out and become more efficient over time. But again, I've stepped into JSteezy's space. But I think for advanced players, every time a new market or new exchange or flipping site, every time something like that rolls out, there's some arbitrage opportunities at play.
Yeah, dude, great point. So for Feral Flips, is that a membership? Do you have to pay wool? How do you actually get into that?
So Feral Flips, no, it's completely open to everybody. We wanted it to be everyone's on the same page. Everyone gets the same buy and sell rates. It's a fully funded liquid AMM, just like the in-game Wolf Game AMM. It actually works the same way. It's like a V2 system. So you just go to www.feralflips.com, and then you would connect your wallet. You'll have to deposit wool and or chops and or credits. And you can withdraw all three of those, no deposit fee, no withdraw fee. It tells you what you will get before each swap, and that is what you'll get. It's just like wool, though. There's a lot of traders now that, if someone sells a large amount of it, basically anything, there's people that jump in and buy afterwards and are flipping. So it's created this whole market. But yeah, it's really cool. Like credits is, it's one of the things I'm most fascinated with and thinking about just constantly. It's just thinking about it in terms of like, this is almost like prepaid, like liquid energy in a sense. And it is something that I want to like acquire, because energy is very scarce and valuable in Wolf Game. And so when you think about it at a cost of, 2 credits each, I started the pool. Like when you start one of these pools, you have to sort of pick a price that you're comfortable buying and selling it at. And I picked 5 because I thought, they would probably be worth about, 4 or 5. And, so I bought a lot of expensive credits. It's kind of a risk that you take as the AMM liquidity, but that's fine. It's here for the long term, and credits aren't going anywhere. So I'm sure it'll be a very fluctuating market. And yeah, I've got to buy some credits cheaper. And because if you can buy 10,000 credits for 20K wool, which is two credits per wool, that means that if you're, you would never spend your A5 Gen Zero Wolf energy if you charged for more than 20K. And 20K is like been a pretty damn cheap charge. And we haven't even seen that since peak launched. I think a lot of like my cost on energy is more than 20K. And I have a bath, but I'm, I've got 6 wolves in baths right now that I'm renting. And before peak, I rushed to get, all my stuff charged. Most of those rates I tried to get as cheap as possible, but they were, near 20K. So like, there's no way I'm selling credits. I'm actually buying credits. But at the same time, it's an interesting market because we really don't need credits right now, right? So, and we are in a place when people need liquidity. So it's like, hey, people might say, I know these are going to rise, but it might take a few weeks or a month or however long it takes to get the game fully firing. So I'm going to take some liquidity now and maybe do a trade, elsewhere. But yeah, I think the same way as Godwin was saying, it's like we look at this, it's like, why would I could still charge and use my animals for other reasons, but there's no way I'm going to be burning my energy to get credits at that cost basis. And if I'm not doing that because it's not efficient, that means most people won't be doing it, which means that credits are going to start, like the supply will stop increasing so fast. And if you say, well, what about the guys with baths? They can just keep selling credits. Well, I would say, look at the bathhouse floor. Why aren't they just renting their bath? They would get a lot more for it that way. But you could argue, well, it's not liquid like the, credits market is, and self-charging. I could do it, on demand, but it's somewhere in the middle, and it's a super interesting market to watch. Like I could see them, running up a lot, but I could also see them staying weak for some time and creating a huge opportunity for people who are paying attention. And it's like, say you just got a few sheep and you really want to play peak. You may have rushed into converting right off the bat. I know a lot of people did, but if you didn't, like at this stage, it might be just a good idea to,
what's it at now?
To the farm and start getting. It's at 2, so 2 wool per credit. So yeah, you would just want to head back to the farm, deposit like 1,000 wool on Feral Flips, and get 500 credits that way. Because there's just no way you can get that energy back at a value that's worth it. That's not a bad thing. It's an opportunity. But people should be taking advantage of this and happy about it. That there's this, way to kind of get a leg up if you do believe on the peak.
Yeah, especially after what these games have been like, this beta test and how successful It has been. And just the fact that you want to continue to play the game, right? It's just like we can finally take like, a breath of fresh air and go, oh, like this is a huge deal. The fact that these games were awesome, So, and then also I'm thinking about like, so there's many people who don't really know about Feral Flips. I think, being able to create some sort of tutorial would be super helpful. And I'm also really excited to see these prices change, right, throughout time. And that's what's always fascinating about the ecosystem. Right now, that 10,000 credits you can get for about 20,000 wool, right? So 2 to 1. What's it going to be, 2 months from now? When is it going to be 10 to 1? Right. I think Farmer Piddy, I think you had kind of predicted those to go as somewhere close to that 10, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to see credits go above 10. And I think this is where anytime you make predictions like this, even like a $15 wool prediction, when I say something like, oh, it's going to go to $15, or, chops are going to go to 30 against water, and stuff like that. That does not mean that it's going to get there and stay there. Like, those are just windows of opportunity that may be short. It may only be there for 3 days. It may be there for 3 weeks. It may be there for 3 years. I don't know. But from like an energy standpoint, yeah, I think there's going to be windows of opportunity in this game, especially around tournaments. When you've got people that are high on that leaderboard, you have to think about the total wool investment that they have into climbing those rankings. Like, they're constantly playing the game and risking wool, and they're spending those credits. So when they get to an end of a tournament, they may have, they're on the leaderboard and they're trying to, win this pouch, but they may have already invested, 100,000 wool to get there. So they're not going to go and say, oh, I ran out of credits because like all of my bathhouses are full and I don't have any credits left. They're not going to be like, well, I'm not willing to pay, 10 wool per credit at this point. Like, they don't care, because what if the tournament ends tomorrow and they know their only option is to buy credits? There's going to be some massive squeezes on these credits. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's
Think
just
about the prizes.
Yeah.
Too, right? I mean, what if Shep puts out these crazy prizes, and you're that close to that, getting those prizes in the leaderboard, and you're like, oh my God, I've got to invest this. So it's a scarcity thing at that point, right?
It's funny, like, a lot of people, for some reason, there was a huge disconnect between this mentality that, oh, energy is really scarce. Energy is scarce. No one is going to deny. In Wolf Game, everyone knows that energy is scarce. But for some reason, when Peak Paper came out and we're launching Peak, the mentality on these Peak credits were like, oh, they're so plentiful. And it's just because Wolves are printing so many of them through the recharges. But the reality is the Peak credits are very much tied to the scarcity of energy. Yes, they have a higher ceiling because a wolf right now can charge, convert to credits, and keep charging again. But those things are still tied, right? They're still tied from like a supply and demand standpoint. So they're going to behave like natural markets. And that's why I think the thought process that a lot of people had, they were separating credits and energy scarcity too much. And they need to bring those things closer together. And I think that's why we're seeing prices so low as they are today. And I don't think it's going to always be the case.
Yeah. And that's another beautiful thing about the game. And, anticipating what's going to happen next and investing on that end when everybody else is forgetting about it, right? We talk about that a lot.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one thing there. I know if some people are struggling to wonder, like, okay, even with a fair bit of games going, how is Shep going to really get to a point where people are willing to spend 10 wool a credit? You may think that, hey, these games are great, but if people aren't good at them, they're not going to play. So picture this scenario to kind of change, the way you're thinking. Think of it almost like, not to say, Blur is good or bad, but just think of it kind of like, almost like Blur bidding, like just doing activity. I think that the leaderboard will be like almost like feel like a farming thing. And people's attitudes might be like, yeah, of course I want to win these games. And that's a huge win if I do. But if I can just break even or do like decent, even if I, lose more than 50%, I think that the volume of play is what's going to be the driving factor. And if that is the driving factor, it gets all the degens in, it gets people that just want to put up volume. They just want to bid, right? I mean, maybe Blair's not the best analogy, but something like that, where it's more than just being good at the games. It's putting in the time and playing. And I think that leaderboard, say that it gives a bonus of 2 or 3x points for a win. I think you're still going to get 1x points for a loss. That's my guess. Or it could even just be basic, just purely credit spent. And that would just, moon credits. And, I think Piddy has mentioned it before, and I totally agree. I think the leaderboard portion of the prize pool, which people are literally writing off to zero, even though they're including a cost for the credits, I think that's the peak. That's the actual big prize, and the heads up sort of liquid wool, which can be substantial, of course, and, could be really good for a skilled player, and that might be all they focus on. But in the grand scheme of things, I think those prizes will actually be less than the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great answer. And then also looking at Shep has the ability to change things, right? That's what's so cool about it. If nobody's playing the games, right, he's going to be able to make them want to play the games. Swinging on over.
That's not going to happen. People are going to play the games because we're all going to play the games.
Yep. So swinging on over to Godwin, can you discuss a unconventional strategy that might be controversial that other people may not be thinking about?
Well, I can't say that they're not thinking about it. Unconventional. What's interesting is we've talked about in the space of crypto, right? The norm is that people are impatient and people move around and they're in, they're out. We get impatient after like 36 hours if nothing happens. And we, it's a meme. We appreciate it. We joke about it. I think with Wolf Game, so I was reading this guy I follow on Twitter, and he did this thread or whatever about, he's a VC investor, venture capitalist. And he started really playing out what he looks for in like an operator or a business person to invest in. And as he began to like roll that out, I was like, wow, like the shepherd checks every single box, and like in a crazy good way. And so I think my approach to the game, I understand everybody has a different angle on the game. There's not one right way to play. But I think my play has been, I'm looking for opportunity. I'm looking for asymmetrical upside. I'm willing to swallow the downside risk of zero because it caps at zero. But I really have tried to approach Wolf Game like a venture capitalist. I'm not a VC investor in anything else, right? But like that's how I try to play the game. Meaning, I don't have an exit point that I have to be out by. I'm able to sort of stomach the volatility to the downside because it's capped at zero. So we joke about everybody's like sort of monitoring floor prices, and I need wool to moon by like 30 days from now, otherwise I got to sell everything. I'm trying not to get over leveraged. I'm trying not to be overly aggressive. Again, I think my edge, and I think there is an edge in just being patient. I say on my like Twitter profile that patience plus conviction is alpha. And sometimes you really only need to play the other side of the market. If the market's being really impatient, I want to be really patient, right? When the market starts saying like they did with some of the meme coins, this is the new paradigm, I'm going to take profits, right? Because that's not how things work. So just trying to be patient, and I know that doesn't sound like glossy or impressive, but again, taking right bets directionally. A VC might have their money tied up for 5 or 10 years. Now, I don't think in crypto it'll take that long because the cycles are faster. But I think the alpha is there. Again, playing the game, but just being willing to be patient. So again, that's not the glossy answer that fits a soundbite really well. But I don't I don't think there's a lot of people playing that way, and hopefully I have an edge, and some of us have an edge as we are patient, waiting for things to play out.
Great answer, dude. I think about business, right? When I first started my business 13 years ago, sleeping on the floor, taking out $5,000 loan, buying all my equipment off of Craigslist, whatever. It was all about patience at that point, right? And I was betting on myself, right? But the business didn't just boom overnight. Anything worth having is going to take time. And when your conviction is strong, listen to your intuition. That's what has led to my success in real life. I feel that strong about the Shep and team, this game, the community, the fact that we're in our almost 40s here and we're doing a freaking podcast the night before, I'm sitting up freaking doing a voiceover of the wallpaper. Like, what the hell is going on in my life? You ever sit back and just go, what am I doing? Am I crazy?
No,
But
dude, there's like some points. I was listening to your wallpaper last night. Shit. I was literally laying in bed.
last night I was laying in bed. Jeez, and Piddy. D Piddy or F Piddy's going a little, he's getting a little wild right now.
Dude, but no, seriously, like I just started laughing because I was like, it's a really good voiceover. Like you did a really great job of it. And
It's awesome.
yeah, when I see how passionate like we are about this, and like it's just we're creating real content that has real value, and that's the stuff that excites me a lot. You like to see other people like you kind of jump in there and say, hey, check out this thing I made, and it's like, it's a little geeky. I can kind of laugh at myself when I see myself on your podcast, and it's like, it's funny. It's legit funny, but I'm serious. Like, I view the time I'm putting into my content, to even recording these podcasts and stuff like that, as it's a real piece of where Wolf Game is going. It's a real piece of what's going to help it get there. And so, I don't know. I know like we're not part of the team, but sometimes it really does feel like, okay, I'm part of the Wolf Game team, because I can put a thread out there that helps people play the game more strategically, or we can produce a podcast that is fun and entertaining for people, and it helps people kind of think about the game differently or onboards new people. So I'm bullish on content creators.
Yeah, dude, awesome points. And looking at like we're doing this for free, and we're not literally, I'm not asking for anything. I don't think anybody here is. I haven't yet met anybody in the community that's like, oh, I can't do that because I'm not making any money. Obviously you have to be conscious of that, right? But it's an investment, a time investment. And I don't think there's anything else out there that like Web3, where you pour a lot of your energy and time into something and not necessarily reap the benefits right away. So I do believe that all of this stuff that we're creating will sooner or later lead to bigger things. I don't know what, but and I'm not saying, hey, Shep, you have to pay us for this content. Like, no, that's not it. But I do know that, we will be blessed somehow. So, all great points. Going back to Farmer Piddy, did you have, that was a great answer, Godwin. Did you have a unconventional strategy that they may not see?
As I was thinking about unconventional, I think about, the obvious things like, peak credits are rare. Like that statement is kind of like, wait, what? Like the average Wolf gamer, they may be starting to feel that way because they're starting to soak in the game, and they're starting to realize that peak credits are rare. But that's a big one, and we just talked, all about that. But I think another one that's really important, and this is more of like a mindset of how we approach the game, is when I look at Wolf Game, I try to get a really high macro view of what the players are doing, and then I want to position myself around that, right? So like a good example is no one wants wood right now, and no one wants grass. I know that's a grand statement. Like obviously some people do, but the main point there is when everyone started going in on water and stone, I was starting to position myself, okay, like this grass and this wood, there's an opportunity there, because now we're in a point where people aren't really interested in it, right? To me, I almost view that as it's almost like DCAing in a bear market. It's about doing the opposite of maybe what your emotions are telling you to do initially, and it's about doing the opposite of what other people are doing. Just think about yourself in a crypto cycle. When everyone's buying, that's usually when you want to be selling, right? Like that is the time when you want to be positioning yourselves against the majority. So that framework has really helped me just identify opportunity in the game. That like breeding, I'm very like proud of this fact. Like I bred Gen 2 sheep number 8. Like that was, and I was like, that was a flag. Like that was a cool victory for me in the game, because it's a thing I can point to and say, yeah, I was an early adopter on the breeding. That's the way I want to approach the game. And right now, I think going back to the peak credits, I think people are kind of treating those like toilet paper. If you're selling it for under 2, like, whew, like you might regret that in the future. And I'm positioning myself to take full advantage of that.
Love that. It's like dodgeball, picking the person last, and they're just like nasty.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they're like into jujitsu, and they look like you can throw them around like a rag doll, but in turn they're throwing you around. So that's awesome. It never feels good to do that, by the way, right? No. I mean, it's, for somebody who's seasoned, it does, because you kind of smile about it, but it never feels good to go against the grain. How about you, JSteezy? Any unconventional strategy that you have that could be controversial?
Definitely lots there. I guess one that comes to mind that kind of definitely plays into what Piddy was just talking about was the chops play, right? And so early on, I was just like everyone else, I was trying to assess, like, how do I get the biggest leg up? What's going on? People were talking about those water plots, and there's a lot of controversy there. Like, is this a bug? Is this not? As soon as I kind of realized, it seemed clear, it wasn't a bug, and it's as designed. And on top of that, everybody is trying to get a bathhouse and a structure going. And I was like, okay, but like these people are burning sheep that have like full energy still, like they're going out of style, like just, we're burning 50 or 100 sheep a day. This isn't sustainable. And I felt the way I do feel about credits similarly as I felt about chops back then. Like people are just like, this is just something to sell. Like it's not for anything. But I was like, what is this used for? It's used to create the most powerful asset in the game, which is a wolf. And it costs 1,000 chops, and it just burns them. The only way to create them is by burning, sheep, which doesn't feel great. Like people, I know that will start coming. We haven't really gotten to a point where the masses are lower on their Gen 2 sheep yet, and that's going to increase chops a lot. But I just saw, the mass rush to building and to buying water. And then I also looked at some of my peers that, had these water plots, and I was like, there's no way I can compete. Okay, actually, there is a way I can compete. I can't earn that much, water, but I can earn a decent amount. And if I start converting all this to chops, I could get an amount of chops that is sort of like almost uncatch-upable. At least that's what I felt at the time. And that's a way I can dilute their power, which sort of brings power to me. And now, I can sort of buy the water I want. And they kind of have a difficult time to, they basically can't buy chops or refuse to buy chops. And so I kind of just keep, hoarding chops. And I think that's my move. If I was hoarding water with them, I can't compete because they earn so much more than me.
Yeah.
And since they weren't converting to chops, I knew I could earn more chops because I was the only one doing it. And I still believe that. Like, things are going to go up and down. And we've obviously had an absolutely insane run on chops against resources. But, it does create that really powerful asset in a wolf that everybody in the game wants to do. If you have wolves, obviously you want to and are trying to do it. If you don't have wolves, you want wolves so you can breed. Like, it's just I don't have a den, right? So I'm constantly refreshing prices since I do have wolves on dens to see, when can I breed? I happen to think that the cost of the 1,000 chops at some point in the future, maybe that's next year or months away, will actually be more value or equivalent value as the average 100K wool fee. Like right now, the fee is what people feel is the main cost, and sort of the chops are like free basically. They're like, that's just a small amount. But I think that that's going to be, because there's people creating, I think there's 30 or 40 wolves at least being created a month. That's 30 or 40,000 chops, which is a lot of chops. They basically have to come from burning. You can't really trade that for that much chops anymore. Really interesting there. I really am still a chops maxi, well, wool maxi, but I love my chops, and I think that it's always an interesting market to keep an eye on. Sort of the pulse of the game in a way.
Yeah, great answer, dude. So basically, are chops deflationary?
Yeah, they are ish, I guess. I would say you should call them that. However, the amount of chops in existence has always increased to this date, and we are near the highs. So by that, you might say they're inflationary, but they're really not. Like when you go to Wolfgame Leaderboard, which is a page, wolfgameleaderboard.com or wgleaderboard.com, it's a page that I refresh, or one of several pages I refresh every day to kind of see the stats. And if you do that a few days in a row, you'll start to notice that chops really doesn't move much. Some days it's up 1,000 or down 1,000. Since basically from the first week on till today, they've increased like maybe 15,000 from the first week, because all those 700 cheap or so that we burn, that happened in like the first week. Since then, it's been very, very little new chops coming into the market because it's being offset by people breeding wolves. So it's super interesting. And it's, kind of just always changing.
Yeah. Yeah. And look at chops now. I mean, look at me now, mother trucker. I freaking changed. I was like, I was so dead set on chops beginning of the game for the first couple months. And then I was like, oh man, I was one of the idiots that was like, oh, let's jump all over water. Oh, I exchanged those, got slaughtered. And now I'm just continually looking at the chops price. I'm like, when the hell is this going to come down? Right? Jeez. Looking back on your journey in Wolfgame, is there any moment or decision that you made that just changed everything?
The moment that really changed everything in the game for me was when I had the light bulb moment with chops. When I realized that this game is about a lot of different things. But in that moment, I was like, this game is all about chops. Like, screw resources. Obviously, I know those are important and we need those. But I need to be focusing on how much chops I'm getting, because the game, as I was looking at like the game design, it was very obvious that chops are always going to outperform resources as the game develops over time. And that was really what pushed me from a gathering mentality to a breeding mentality. That was a really big shift in like my overall game strategy. And without the connection of, chops are up only, like thinking about them that way, without that change in mindset, I probably wouldn't be a breeding maxi, or maybe I just wouldn't be, it would have taken me longer to realize that. But yeah, that's a big moment for me. Definitely having clarity on, okay, this is what chops are. This is what they could look like in another 2 or 3 years.
Great. How about Godwin?
Yeah, I mean, big believer in, you got to play the hand you're dealt, right? And you play the hand you're dealt against the people at the table. So it's interesting. I think every time you get sort of 30, 60 days into the game, you start seeing things that you hadn't seen before. I mean, one of the instances of the ball bouncing the right way for me, I had bought 3 unrevealed lands at like, I don't know, 0.3 ETH or something, and just really luck boxed it and revealed 2 structures out of 3 lands, which again, unreal, just ridiculous, right? And I have awareness to know that's unreal. But it was in Community 4 and Community 63, and when the white paper came out and you started stitching the details together, I was like, so if I build a barn and a bath, I'm gonna be half the game board away, right? And that really, 45 days in, that really stood out to me as that's not an advantage. If I want to breed, that's a disadvantage because I've got to navigate,
Yeah.
move back and forth. So it probably took me 10 or 12 hours, but I ended up like basically stitching a trade together where I traded both of those structures for two structures in the same community. I've got what, 35 game pieces maybe total. So I'm not a little player, but I'm not even Steezy light. You know what I mean? I'm like way down the pecking order. But I had to play the hand I was dealt, and I felt like the time I invested, it was a lot of manual effort, a lot of communication, brokering back and forth. But being able to get a barn and a bath in the same community for a player of my size, over a year or two yields me a huge advantage from a breeding standpoint, energy, wool output, time invested. So I feel like that was a move early on that is going to pay just huge dividends for me personally, with the game that I am able to play.
Great answer, dude. Freaking love that. Man, two structures dropped into your wallet, which is just awesome. And you didn't really know.
I was very happy. I was very happy for him in that moment. Don't get me wrong, but I will say the jealousy was seated inside my heart, just a little bit of it.
The night of land reveal, Piddy and I are on a text thread with some other people, and yeah, I mean, I definitely got the best draw of the four of us, and someone on the text thread was so triggered by how bad their luck was compared to my luck that like it was such a sore subject. Like I think I had to wait like 3 or 4 days before I even like openly celebrated how excited I was. I had to like stuff it under a rug or something like that. So that's fun. It's funny, but that was a memorable Wolf game moment for sure.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I was talking to Payman at one point, and do you guys know what he landed? I know he landed a structured peak. I think he landed 2 structured peaks where I'm just like, what? You know what I mean? It's insane. Going on over to JSteezy, what about you? Is there anything that you was a big changing point for you?
Yeah. First, I'll say great answers, Godwin and Piddy. Like to see that, to think about that advantage to get them both in the same community. Like looking back, that's so hard to do now, and is such a big advantage. It's just it's very rare to get that. So well done there. And with the chops, Piddy, I just wanted to say, like, I think I forgot to say it in my chops spiel, but a lot of it also came down to, at least for me, a clicking moment was like, hey, Shep's goal in a lot of ways is to get people to burn sheep. And the way that he can do that is making chops buy you a lot of stuff. And if chops aren't getting you a lot, like so it's good for the game. Like the more, chops buys you, the better it is. And I just kind of thought that, well, of course, like if I'm not super enticed to burn a sheep right now, Shep's going to make it so I get enticed at some point. And he will do that for absolutely everybody. I think it'll come to a place at some points where it borders on the line of like, I don't want to burn a sheep, but chops are even worth more. I kind of like have to. And it's like, people are still reluctant to do it. We'll see how it affects when the Gen 2 start running out of energy. But yeah, it's just such a cool market. For myself, I would say one standout for me, and I don't mean to just say this, but like feral flips, even though like I'm, one of the guys behind it, like I am such a big user in it, and it really does change the way and kind of help me understand credits for sure, because they were newer. And it's now one of my daily refresh pages, and just always thinking like, wow, like there could be a huge opportunity here if somebody sells a lot of credits or chops or something like that. It's sort of just it's really a valuable tool to have in your toolkit, and we keep getting more and more of those. We have more than a dozen probably, even if that's just watching and just kind of understanding where that pricing is at, Because if you're not doing that, you could be just playing the game and, say, hey, the cheapest bathhouse is 30K. I guess this is what I'm charging for. And, and then I'm going to turn it into credits, and they might not even know about that. And,
Hmm. Yeah.
so yeah, I don't mean to, shield my own platform there, but it is, it did change. Like, that's the most recent thing that is just, man, it has me fired up about like what it means for the game and how people can calculate a yield and
Hmm.
in all sorts of ways. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be taking a look at that this afternoon for sure. You're really kind of planting the seeds and laying the groundwork early on, and you can really kind of see the vision of it and how wild it can be. You spoke a little bit about running out of energy too, all these sheep and burning, and what that's going to do for chops too. Also, for me, I think my biggest change was making my way to, the hustle to get to my black A7. There's only 13 in the game. And it really allowed me to build a personal brand around something. The past year I've been really strong about cementing myself in the Web3 world, and I believe that this wolf will have it does now, not even close to what it will in the future, but I do believe that it will really just be an iconic figure. So, my goal is to reach the masses. So I think what better than to have the black wolf. So, and again, it's all of us kind of looking bigger picture, right? And just kind of zooming out and being like, there's just so much promising potential here. So prior to the show, we had reached out to the audience and we asked what kind of questions they had. And Oatman from the Wolf Game community had asked what we would change in Wolf Game. So Farmer Piddy, do you want to start with that?
Sure. I guess I get the easy start. And I saw him tweet that, so like I've had a few hours to think about it. And this is not a cop out, I promise. The biggest thing that I want to change right now today is playing frequency on the peak. And I know that's coming. So it's like it's not fun, but I am excited to like I want to be able to play peak anytime I want to. Like that. I think that is something that is a good thing to aspire to. So that's a big thing for me. And then, yeah, like I guess like if I could change something else about the game, it would be out of my control. But the bathhouse pricing is a little ridiculous right now.
Those greedy bastards.
I'll just say they're greedy bastards, and we need cheaper energy. Let's do this, guys.
Cool. Godwin, how about you?
Humorous one than serious. I mean, yeah, I wish I could have changed when I when I deployed most of my capital into the game. Wolves were unattainable, and other things were also expensive, and so I have 35 pieces. I do not have a wolf. I would love to have changed just a little bit of the timing. So I think my thing, and I would say this, right? A lot of things we would change would actually probably make the game worse, just to be honest, because we're not the shepherd. But so just to be clear, but I mean, I would love to see. I don't mind announcements taking a while. I don't mind how Shep batched the communications really tight and just sort of hit us with this, massive velocity 3 days before peak launch. I'm good with all that. I'd love to see just more frequent communication of some kind, just with the community. But again, I know that there's a method to, the madness, so to speak. But I think that's something that people would want. It adds a lot of value. It helps people connect to the game. So just, yeah, I think more frequent communication from the team, from the shepherd. I love when he jumps in Discord and just throws a bone to the community. Even he's engaged with a few people, what they've said, or he's answered their question. Again, I think more of that would just go a long way. So that would be my change or my modification.
Great answers. Steezy, how about you?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think that I would be similar, the first gut response is similar to Piddy's frequency. And, when you ask me that question, and that's what I think about, it goes to show, like, I really think it's a thing of beauty, Wolf Game, really. Like it is what I would call kind of close to how I would think is perfect. And all the things that I really want or would change, like I expect are inevitable and coming. So I would add to that, another thing that I've sent feedback for these things and I expect they come in time, but they're still a long way off. But, a community, like anybody is allowed to submit something for a proposal for a vote. And I think that would be like just game changing. And there's a really cool way Shep could do it. That's almost like gamifying it, where, if someone wants to make a proposal, say, you could say anything. You could say, let's make black sheep into wolves. And he could propose that, but he has to put up 10,000 wool, or like that was just my idea amount, but it could be anything. But call it 10,000 liquid wool, and then that goes live, and it goes into a vote for 7 days. If it fails, his wool is burned, and it's gone. If it's passed, he gets his 10K back, and even a 10K pouch that could be funded from community rewards. Now you just made a new job, basically, that people could come in and create great ideas, because that's exactly what it incentivized. And if you put a great idea out, you're going to get rewarded. You're going to get your wool back. You're going to have a very strong impression on the game. And then people who make bad ideas, that's basically an anti-spam feature, that the 10K bond, you could call it, that they have to put up to submit an idea. You can make it 5K or less too. But I think that's going to create just such quality ideas, because people will not really want to submit something they're not just throwing out for their own personal reasons that they probably get turned down. And that's a long way out still. And I really like how Shep guides us still. And I think that that's necessary, but eventually I'd love to see that, because our community has such good ideas. And, that would really fast track a lot of things in the future. But yeah, I just want more games. I want to be able to play more. That's my only complaint.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. And people love to feel heard, right? So if they do make some change in the game because of what they had proposed, I think is super powerful. I also, I think communication is important from Shep and team, but being able to communicate within our community too. Like, so if you do have, an asset that you want to trade or whatever, to be able to like communicate better than just like Discord or, that's where scams happen. I got scammed 3-4 months ago. It was, was it huge? No. Was it annoying and freaking defeating? Yes, for a period of time. But there are others that are, it's pretty frequent. There's imposters in Discord. There needs to be some sort of marketplace, where you can actually communicate, or even just some sort of like little chats that you can write in the game, I think would be huge. I just wanted to finish the show with a really kind of a fun thing here. So each player will have 2 minutes to role play and discuss why they should be owned and why they don't understand why their prices are down. So you are going to be an asset in Wolf Game, right? You have wolves, sheep, farmers. You can be a parcel of land. You could be a wool bag. You could be wool. You could be a relic. And I want you you have 2 minutes to discuss why you should be owned, where your power is, and then also why you don't understand why your prices are down so low. The winner will hold the golden crown, the A7 crown, until overthrown by future guests. Throwing people on the spot here.
Can you repeat the start of that? Sorry.
Yeah. So each guest will have 2 minutes to role play and discuss why they should be owned and why they don't understand why their price is down. So basically, you're going to pick an asset and you're going to role play. You're going to be the asset and you're going to try to convince us why you should be owned and why you don't understand why your prices are down. The winner will hold the golden crown, the A7 crown, until overthrown by future guests. All right, do we have everyone's cooperation?
Yep.
I'm good.
Anybody want to go first?
I'll take it.
Cool. So who are you? So yeah, what asset are you?
It's a great question. I'm a bit animated at the moment. I'm a relic. I'm a bit animated. I'm the most rare asset in the game. Possibly the most talked about, viewed asset in the game. I get retweeted over and over and over and referenced, and I'm misunderstood. I get speculated against. King Mansa Musa, owns the most of me. The king, right? The king. And yet on Discord, I get constantly made fun of. My utility is a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. So I just want to say, I feel misunderstood. I feel used, constantly retweeted. Sort of this is like taxation without representation in the NFT space. So again, I'm a bit animated about my lack of utility and how undervalued I am. There, I said it.
That is a freaking great response. I did not prep Godwin at all with this question. So that was great.
I've embodied that. I found a relic in Cave Game and sort of had to I was super excited. And then I was what can I can't, win utility, right? And so anyway, but that's something I've kind of lived through and embodied. But anyway, thanks for
I love that.
Thanks for the setup.
That's awesome. It was a great, and it's the relic too. Just the fact that you mentioned that it's very, it wouldn't be suspected, right? So, how about JSteezy? Do you want to go? P Diddy, you want to go?
You go first, Diddy. I've got two assets I'm thinking of, so you choose
Diddy.
whichever.
All right, I'll go next. All right. I'm a farmer, and I'm pissed off. My floors have dropped significantly. At one point, I'm a daddy farmer, by the way. At one point, people were trading me for 6 Ethereum, and now I am just waste. I am just waste for people to just throw away. The thing that frustrates me the most is the fact that I think I'm the most utility-centric piece in the game. If you think about it this way, every single other game piece can derive utility from the farmer. No other NFT can say that. So if anything, I should be the most valuable. The other thing is, as the game gets more players into it, breeding is going to become more difficult. So even as the game develops, my utility increases over time and becomes more valuable over time. But here we are, 6 months into the game, and no one wants me, and everyone thinks that I am a joke. Nothing will ever come from a farmer. But I'm a hardworking farmer, and I'm pissed off, and I will promise that my floors will go up with vengeance.
Oof, I like it. I like it, P Diddy, the Big Daddy, man. Big Daddy. I could see you as a Big Daddy, dude.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Do you want everybody to just start calling you Big Daddy?
Big.
It's a little strange, but it's fun.
How about Daddy Piddy?
Daddy Piddy's not bad.
Call me Daddy Piddy. Piddy Daddy.
Pid Daddy.
Piddy Daddy. Oh, that's great. JSteezy, do you want to go?
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go with a wolf. This is Wolf Game. And we were told it's called Wolf Game for a reason. And I'm not feeling very good. Not so much because I feel my utility's down, but because I feel so much lack of respect from the community and the Discord, and I'm just getting bashed. I'm even being called a dog, or similar to a sheep with teeth. I'm being compared to sheep, and these are my prey. It's an insult to be put in that category. And I do amazing on the farm. I'm hitting 45 chop loots every day, just banking. I can get peak credits on demand. I can, be watching the bathhouse rates and always have a potential opportunity in my mind. But people just say that I'm useless, and there's a lot of wolves just sitting on the peak doing nothing, and I'm fed up with it. Not to mention the barns, like stealing sheep and stealing chops. It's huge. These are so valuable. Only I can do it. There's no appreciation. This is wolf game. And people are that's gonna be jammed down their throats once again. And people will be begging us for forgiveness for treating us like so-called teethed sheep.
Oh, that's so classic. That is great, guys. I was actually gonna choose a wolf too. Fuck.
Be an
But
A5. Be an A5 wolf. I think that's a very specific persona right now.
yeah, but yeah. Well, the thing with an A5 though is like that's like the opposite of where I would go, because you could get an A6, right? You can get an A6 for pretty much the same price, just for people who don't know what the hell they're doing. You know what I mean? So I would say that I'm a wool pouch, right? I mean, the Shep has really believed in me and helped me understand my role, and just unleashing for 4 years. I mean, you're going to be with me for 4 years. I mean, what kind of investment in the NFT space will last 4 years? I will grant you the precious wool drip on a daily basis. It's literally a paid annuity. I mean, people are losing money left and right in the NFT space. Hold on to me for 4 years. Don't touch the wool that comes out of my ass, my pouch, and I will be way higher, I would say, in the next 6 months when the rest of the world understands what wolf game is and understands the magnitude of wool and the pouch. So stick with me. I will lead you to the promised lands, I guess.
You start calling your name Pouch Maxi now.
Pouch Maxi. I know. I feel like we should throw it to the community to make the decision. That could be kind of fun. Maybe we put, we put it out there, and I don't know, we can come up with a fun, whoever gets the most votes or whatever. I think that would be really cool.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, guys, I had an absolute blast today, and I'm sure a lot of you did. I hope that the audience really gained some value, some entertainment. We had some amazing takes on every one of our guests. I appreciate you all for coming on, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Without the guests and without the audience, this wouldn't be possible, this podcast. So super stoked to continue the ideas and to really elevate this podcast to onboard hundreds and thousands of new players and enthusiasts.
Yeah, just, thanks, Godwin, Piddy, Di. It's an absolute honor, pleasure to be up here with you legends, and can't wait to do it again. You guys are really special voices in the community, and, it goes a long way listening to these pods. It's, the highlight of my day when they come out. So yeah, really appreciate taking the time, having me up, and it was a blast.
Yeah, I'll say, thanks again, Dio. I mean, like a bet on Wolf Game is a bet on the Shepherd. It's also a bet on the community. The community is part of the game. So to everybody in the community, sort of our founding forefathers, but also those who have joined, again, I just really value this community. I'm grateful to be a part of the community, and always love the opportunity to give back to the community.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm excited to be on the podcast, and I think it's a whole layer of the game that not a lot of people dive into, but I think more people should. So like if this is the first podcast you've listened to and you want to get more involved in sort of like this, I don't know, this social aspect of the game where we get to talk strategy with other players and kind of maybe even have some healthy debate around chops or peak credits or whatever. yeah, there's so much of the game that isn't represented in your browser. And I just think that's a really cool aspect of everything. So yeah, it's a great to be a part of. That's for sure.
Yeah, very well said. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for tuning into Beyond the Den. We look forward to seeing you again, most likely next week. I think a weekly cadence is what this is coming down to. This was supposed to be once a month thing, and now it's overtaking my life. So, love doing it, and yes, stay woolish. And that's a wrap for today's journey into Beyond the Den. I'm Digital Optimist, your guide through the wild world of wolf game and blockchain gaming. I hope you've picked up some valuable insights and have enjoyed today's exploration. Remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole realm of strategies, stories, and hidden opportunities waiting for you in the episodes to come. So don't forget to subscribe and stay updated. Until our next adventure, keep exploring, keep gaming, and remember, the pack is always stronger together. See you in the next episode of Beyond the Den.